Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever and whenever you are. And welcome to the third episode of Take the Points. I'm Wilson. Oh, I blew it. I blew it. I got to start. Let me try that again, and I'm going to keep this in. Welcome to the third episode of Take the Points.
A true underdog podcast.
There we go. I'm Wilson, and I'm here with Robbie.
Hello, everybody. Nice to see and hopefully hear all of you.
And we have I'm smiling, but it's sort of a sad, but also not celebratory, but sad episode today. We're going to talk about the Lions. I'm excited to get into this. I think this is going to be therapeutic.
That's mostly why we're doing it today. I think as much as we want to talk Lions, I know I personally need some time to just think about what happened and talk through it.
Yeah.
I've stayed away from media the past 24 hours because I just can't bring myself to watch any replays. I'm yet to watch any replays from the game because I am just so emotionally unsure of where I'm going to go next coming out of this game. One of the most tough losses I think I've had in my entire life, but I'm happy we're here together.
Yes.
And for everybody listening, I'm sure everyone's feeling a similar state of emotion. But we're going to try to talk through it the best that we can.
Right, because it's obviously a successful season. So we can look at that, and look back on it. It's hard to do that so freshly, but we can look back on it and say, the Lions had a great season. But in the moment right now, it hurt so bad. It was brutal. Sunday night was absolutely brutal, and I'm sure having been there in person yourself, it was 10 times more brutal.
Yes.
And then the long trip home that you had.
I think we talked about a little bit last week, but my dad and I flew to Sacramento and then actually drove from Sacramento to San Jose because we could use our Delta companion pass, which anyone that tries to ever use a companion pass knows that it's never possible to work. So we were able to get it to work. But
Very savvy.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes, I'm trying to be an economical person here.
I like that.
But anyone that knows when you do that, you get a couple connections here and there. We had to drive 2 hours in California traffic. So I knew going on the way out, my mentality was just how awesome it was going to be. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, if they lose this game, this 13-hour trip home is going to be brutal. And unfortunately, it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, you probably were thinking about it the whole time, right? I would have been.
My dad and I just kept having these looks of each other of, it'd be like an hour or two, and then you would just look at each other and just give that, that's just what it had to be because everyone processed it differently. I will say a lot harder not being home and just having to be in the direct vicinity with all of the fans for the people that had just won.
Yeah.
Talk about pouring salt into a wound. Tough.
Oh, man.
Tough.
The only thing I can possibly relate that to is being at a Michigan State game and watching Michigan win, and then the fans are around you, and you're just like, oh, this is 10 times worse that I'm here. But, okay, so let's talk about, I want to set this up, we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about the experience of being there. I want to hear all about what it was like, how the 49ers fans treated you, what was the atmosphere like in the stadium, just all of that. Of course, talking about the game. So we haven't talked about the game yet, so you guys are going to hear us doing that live. I don't know how Robbie feels about some of the moves that Dan Campbell made. He doesn't know how I feel, so that'll be fun.
Lots of thoughts to share.
Okay.
Lots of thoughts.
I have a lot too. And then, of course, some huge news came out today with Ben Johnson, and we'll talk about the future of the team and what we're excited about and what we think they need to do to get even better. So, does that sound good to you, Robbie?
That sounds like a plan, and we have our bets
at
the end we will get to, which are also 0-2 for both of us, so we will get to those. We are transitioning to a new sport, given the lack of football this week, so hopefully that helps us.
And it's my specialty. Basketball. So great, lots to get into. But first, let's hear about the experience. Just walk us through, as a Lions fan, being there in the San Francisco area. What is it like out at the bars and restaurants you went out to? What's the energy of the city and everything?
Yeah, I think given that we were flying into Sacramento, we'll just kind of start with the beginning of the trip. Metro that day when we left, which is full of Lions fans, obviously, everybody flying to kind of different parts of the country to try to figure out how they were going to get to the game. But there was just this common bond among everybody that was Lions fans that I thought was really cool. do the proverbial kind of fist bump when you walk by, go Detroit, this is our time. Just truly incredible from the get-go, a lot of excitement and anticipation. I will say this was my first time watching, or attending, I should say, a playoff game of any sort, not in a Detroit stadium for any team, obviously not in the Lions because they haven't been there, but also just the first time actually watching the Lions in an opposing stadium, which I knew going in, whether it was a regular season, it would have been obviously hectic, but clearly a NFC championship game has a lot of weight that goes with it. So I will say the fans in San Francisco, the people in San Jose, extremely welcoming. Prior to the game, nobody really yelling and giving me a hard time. And my dad and I made sure that we wore Lions gear 24/7 when we were there. There's no chance I was walking around without anything on other than the Honolulu blue and silver, because just have to.
And let me just say, I don't know that would have been true if this game was hosted in Detroit, and the playoff games that we did host, I don't know that that's true for Tampa Bay fans walking around in their Tampa Bay jerseys. I think that people of Detroit I would want to hope that we would treat them at least cordially, but I do believe that there would be a little bit of smack talk.
Yeah, there was some jeering, some playful criticism, and
okay.
Detroit stinks. All you guys have is Motown. Just some of those easy burns that I know.
I'm glad that they were doing that, though.
The highlight was, so we go to pick up the rental car, and I'll start here, and then I'll get into the game a little bit more, but we go to pick up the rental car, obviously in all of our Lions gear, and this woman behind the counter says, "Oh, are you guys going to the Lions game?" Clearly in all Lions gear. So I said, "Yes, we are." And she goes, "I'm a huge Niners fan. Go Niners." And then she said, "Are you guys coming back to drop your rental car off on Monday?" And this is kind of as we're walking out toward the car. And I say, "Yeah, we'll be back here on Monday." And she said, "That would be really great. I can't wait to rub in our victory." Of which, as I'm walking out the door, I yelled back to her, "I love your overconfidence. It's going to make us kicking your ass even that much more sweet." And then proceeded to walk out the door. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, no matter what happens, there's not a chance in hell I'm coming back inside of this place when we drop the rental car off. I'm doing the drop the keys and
Good
go.
Call.
But it was those type of moments that were great, because I will say there was this overconfidence just throughout the whole city that I felt, which actually made me feel comfortable. That Dan Campbell's comments last week, everybody says you're so great and your stuff doesn't stink. San Francisco was thinking they were in a pretty good spot too, which I love that theme of this podcast. The underdog definitely felt that.
That's what we want to be.
Right. And of course we had to eat. The first night we get there, we had to eat in a local bar that was all San Francisco fans, because why not? At that point, I just want to walk into the proverbial Lions den here, right, and just walk right in with those 49ers fans. I think I actually sent you a text maybe that I was eating somewhere, and you sent me a clip from a movie, right, when they...
It was of Eminem actually spitting into the food. I think it was from a music video as a fast food worker.
Yeah, so that was my nervousness, I guess, leading into the game was, okay, is anything like that going to happen? But it was a lot of playful stuff prior to the game. But the atmosphere, I will say, day of, just absolutely incredible in downtown San Jose. The restaurants, the breakfast places, the bars, just Lions fans everywhere. And you would just walk by across the street and just kind of put your hand up in unity. Go Lions, let's do this, baby. This is our time. This is our moment. The Lions fans showed up.
That's so heartwarming and uniting. I love that.
It was a bonding moment. People I've never seen before in my life just coming together for this one game and this one big moment. It was an awesome, awesome experience prior to the game. We did some tailgating before. There was some kind of conversation on Twitter of where people were going to meet up. So everybody, all the Lions fan kind of met up in this blue lot. Obviously, they call it the blue lot. And Niners tailgate was going on, super graceful to us. For those that follow the Lions closely, I think it's Crackman, who's this Lions, I was telling Wilson, just like a very well-known Lions fan, goes to all the games. You always see him singing forward down the field on Twitter and Instagram. It's kind of his thing. Then there was one of the girls there who, if everyone watched the past couple weeks, her dad had passed. She drives, I think, from like the UP down to the Lions game every Sunday, brings his jersey and puts it on his chair. She was there. She grabbed the mic at the tailgate. Just incredible. Like you could,
oh my God, that's amazing.
You could feel the emotion leading up into the game. And my dad and I looked at each other a couple times, and I'm not going to lie, I'm man enough to say it on here. We had a lot of tears in our eyes thinking about I'm sure a lot of people did, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, anyone that you've watched the game with, siblings, just everything you've been through to be at that moment right. I equate it to like right before a marathon starting.
I was just going to say that. I have tears. I mean, I've only ran one full marathon, but as it was starting and the sun was coming up in Cleveland, dude, I cried.
It was euphoria, just the entire moment. Obviously didn't turn out the way that we had hoped, but just the lead up to the game, the anticipation was just absolutely incredible. We went in about an hour and a half before the game as soon as the gates opened, caught the end of the first game inside. And honestly, we almost didn't even want to get out of our seats because, is someone going to take them? Is this real? Are my tickets going to work?
Oh, man. Oh, God, I'm so jealous, but so happy for you.
Yeah.
I feel like this is sharing a little bit, maybe oversharing a little bit too much about my personality, but I would have gotten like too anxious and excited and nervous, and at the tailgate I would have drank too much, and I would have walked in that stadium a little bit drunk.
Let me say, there were a lot of Lions fans that did that, and I believe we're taking the red eye home that night. So,
oh man, it's brutal.
Right. Anyone knows Lions fans tailgate
hard.
Alcohol going to be consumed.
Yeah.
Especially when the Niners tailgating people were offering it up to us. Super nice people giving you beers when you walk in, don't have to pay. Just really, really welcoming fans, which I'll get to later in the pod of what happened after the game. Again, I liked it going in because my thought was these guys think they are going to roll.
Yeah. And we're going to show them, and then it's going to be sweeter.
You could feel the arrogance a little bit in the air of the Lions have never been here. You guys don't know what it's like. Oh, good for you guys. I'm glad you made it this far, which just in my... Right, exactly. In my mind, my first thought was I just want to kick the living hell out of these guys just to shut them up and just get rid of this kind of air of confidence. And I felt like the players, at least in the first half, you could tell they were carrying that too. I think that's partly what happened in that first half, which we can dive into the game. So just absolutely incredible from the start. Just the jet flying over for the national anthem. I mean, my dad and I were just shaking. Super cool too. Fun little fact is, so we get there, we're sitting in first row in the 200 level, thinking we're going to be surrounded by Niners fans. My entire row, all Lions fans, except for the guy to my left and the guy on the far end. We were bookended by Niners fans, all Lions fans, with probably 50 rows behind us of Niner fans. So we knew every time we stood up, those people behind us had to stare down and see every Goff, every Brown, every Ragnow jersey that possibly was there, which was super great. Yeah.
Wow. Well, that sounds incredible, and I wish I was there. But what I was sitting there thinking, obviously I knew you were there as I'm watching the game, like those first few minutes of the game, I mean, I think we scored with less than 2 minutes off the clock. Like
Jameson.
You got to describe that feeling to me, like as we're rolling down the field.
It was, I think going in, one of our keys was you have got to run the ball. And Ben Johnson comes out, running, play action. I think a toss to Laporta. Montgomery was just chewing up yards. We were doing the just
everything
keep
we
on
wanted.
Going. And you could tell Ben Johnson and Goff, they were on the game. We always say early on in the game, I truly believe this, you can tell with Jared Goff if he's on or if he's off.
You can
just tell with his passes, the way our offense works, he requires tight, crisp passes early on. Doesn't always throw the cleanest spiral, but you can tell in those situations, and we could just tell that first drive that he was on the money. And that Jameson Williams run, I think I said it in the pod last week, I thought there was going to be some reverses with him just because of what would happen with the injury to Khalif Raymond, obviously, like who knew what Laporta was going to be like. When he broke that run, just time almost stood still at that point when he crossed that end zone, and just the jumping in the stadium from all of this sea of blue was just absolutely incredible. I think I hugged my dad, high-fiving guys left and right that were Lions fans, looking up in the stands, just saying, this is our time. It was incredible. I've never yelled that. I've never allowed myself to be that into a game, to yell that loud and be so happy. It just kind of blew the roof off. Had there been a roof, it just what it felt like at the stadium.
I'm going to contrast that with what I was doing, which was sitting on the couch with my wife, and our 2-month-old son had just fallen asleep as Jameson Williams is, doing that run.
Perfect.
And I am just trying so hard to not scream, and I actually, I couldn't help it. I was like, oh my God. And he woke up, and then it happened again, and the second touchdown. So I was like trying to have to reel myself in, which was almost impossible. So next year when we're in this situation, I'm either going to be there or I'm going to be out at a bar somewhere so that I'm not like waking up my son and pissing off my wife.
I was thinking of all the people that were not there and how incredible it was to be there and how much I wish all the Lions fan could have been there with me to experience and kind of see what these eyes have seen. If anyone's the movie Rudy fan came to my mind, when Rudy's dad goes to see him, it's at the end of the movie, and he goes to get out of the bus, and I think he walks into the stadium, and I think he says to his other son, this is the most beautiful thing these eyes have ever seen. I leaned over to my dad and said that, just the sun kind of coming up over the stadium. We're up 14-0 in the freaking NFC Championship game for a chance to go to the Super Bowl. This is the most beautiful things these eyes have ever seen, aside from my lovely wife and my beautiful dog. So just
beautiful dog.
Just absolutely an incredible moment there, and the momentum was high, the vibes were high, everyone was feeling great. Obviously, not knowing what was to come in the second half, but just truly an incredible first half. The team played so well. I thought Ben Johnson showed how amazing he is. San Francisco was on their heels. He was running. He was throwing. We were making 3rd and 9 completions, running, I think, on 3rd and 12, and we picked it up. Just felt like anything we dialed up, we were delivering on from an offensive standpoint. And defense, getting an interception from Purdy, right? Malcolm Rodriguez.
Yeah. Coming in from an injury.
Right.
I hadn't seen him out there in that kind of situation, like in early game situation. When's the last time he was out there in that? Like first couple games of the season?
He was not getting a ton of defensive snaps.
No,
this year.
Not
I think
at all.
Anzalone maybe missed one game at that point. Campbell moved up to the Mike linebacker, and then you obviously had Derek Barnes that was rotating in, and then
but then he's the injury.
Jalen Reeves-Maybin also was playing a ton, and it was Malcolm Rodriguez. But that's the difference between our team this year and last year. This happens last year. You're getting a practice squad guy coming up to play linebacker. In that game, Malcolm has seen the reps. He played nearly all of last season because our linebacker depth was so weak. That's the sign of a good team. Next man up, which is what Campbell says. So I couldn't have imagined a better first half. And the Niners fans, the stadium was silent.
Was it?
It was
yes.
deafening. The Lions fans showed up. People were yelling and screaming, and you could just tell the Niners fans almost thought to themselves, because they've been here the past couple years and have not gotten through, thinking to themselves, this is happening again.
Here it goes again. Yeah, man.
Right.
I was wondering how that was feeling in the stadium because so many Lions fans being there, I wondered if it was like still kind of loud just before the Lions, but it was silent.
The Jared Goff chants pregame, start of the game. Sheila Ford was on the field. Everyone just started yelling for her. I mean, we were up in the 200 level. You could still hear it.
You could.
The Blue Lions fans were everywhere in the stadium.
But you could hear them. You could hear the cheering.
Oh yes.
Okay, great.
Oh yes.
Good.
Oh, you could hear the Jared Goff chants were loud. Brad Holmes walked on the field, and everyone just stood up and erupted. Lions fans were in their seat, I swear, 90 minutes before the game, just ready for this thing to kick off. My dad and I included. And then, rolled into halftime feeling really, really strong. Loved the game plan early on. I think we can, maybe touch a little bit on some decisioning there. I think the first big play of the game was going into halftime. Dan Campbell's choice there to take the field goal.
Which I loved, man. I loved that. I was like, you know what? Let's make this a 3-score game right now. Like, literally take the points, and we can roll into halftime thinking, okay, they've got to come down and score 3 times without us scoring to even tie the game,
Right.
With the two touchdowns and a field goal that they were away.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling great about that. Feels much better than a 2-possession game, in my opinion, going into halftime.
I think had the Lions been getting the ball back to start the second half, I think Campbell would have gone for it.
Yeah, true.
I think we're going to have a lot of discussion because, again, we don't know how each other stands on what took place there. If you look at, there's probably 3 critical fourth down calls in this game, 2 that did not go our way, 1 where we ended up taking the points. Of all of them, this is the one that I think could be debated back and forth just like the others. Do you go really put your foot on the neck of the Niners there and say, this is it, we're going into halftime up 21? Or do you take the points? I will admit I have been critical of Dan Campbell this entire year of his decisioning on fourth down, but I've learned to accept it that is who we are. I did find it interesting he didn't go. And if you looked on the sideline, because I was staring right down at him, he was contemplating. He left that offense on the field for a good 20, 30 seconds before he kind of put his hands up and said, we're going field goal. He was clearly thinking the same way that we were, and I want to go into this halftime up 3 scores. That is 3 scores to tie us.
Exactly.
We are still in an advantageous position there. At the 2-yard line, give it to Montgomery. Probably super high odds of being able to knock it through.
Yeah.
I was totally okay with the decision there to take the points. I thought it was some maturity from Dan Campbell.
100%.
And I can sleep going into a halftime with the 30-yard field goal, being up 17, being 30 minutes away from the freaking Super Bowl. I have no problem with that at all.
When you have that opportunity with the short field goal for the Lions, which we have obviously had our kicker issues, but I thought that was an opportunity to give Badgley an easier one, build his confidence so that in the second half, if we needed him in a situation, he'd have that make already in the game to have a little bit of confidence. So I loved the move. I loved taking those points.
Badgley was stroking the ball in
before the
warm-ups.
game? Oh.
Let me tell you, not many people watch the field goal kicker. I love watching the field goal kicker because I thought this game was going to come down to a field goal. No one's rushing him. There's no linebackers or anybody coming after him trying to block the ball. He was hitting from 59, 60 yards in warm-up.
Wow.
Easy, no problem.
And if you remember from last week, I predicted that he was going to win us the game with a field goal at the end. So
he could have won us the game with the field goal had we
there.
taken the points, which we will get to a little bit later of kind of where my feelings sit. So I was totally okay with the decision. I thought it was maturity from Dan Campbell, realizing the situation. You're up 14. Being up 21 would have been great had we known what we know now. Sure, maybe you say we should have gone for the touchdown. Hindsight 2020. Had no problem with them taking the points.
Oh, good. We feel the same.
Good. I wasn't sure where that was going to go.
Yeah. I don't know that we're going to feel the same here about the second half moves.
We have to touch on the halftime show. I think I told Wilson this before for anyone that hasn't heard. And Wilson's a big music guy over here. Shout out, Wilson.
Yes. Shout out Last Night Saved My Life, my band. Check it out.
Yes. So I may be a runner. Wilson's a singer. And so we hear at halftime, okay, they're going to be playing, Journey's actually going to be playing. Okay, great. First thing that comes to my mind, love Journey. No way in hell they're going to play Don't Stop Believing.
Like, they wouldn't let them do that.
Yeah, there's just...
with the South Detroit lyric in that stadium, right? No way.
Third song comes on. There it is. They start playing it. And all of a sudden in the stadium, you just see this rise of all of this blue when they say, born and raised in South Detroit.
This is our theme song. For people who don't know, Detroit people, this is our song.
And they tried to replace it with born and raised in South Bay. I'm sorry, what? Born and raised in South Bay.
Like, you hold that? Like, you need 2 syllables,
I have a video of it, and maybe we can post this along with the pod. We can do a little interruption here and maybe put it in, but no one said South Bay. It was clearly in South Detroit.
Oh, hell yeah.
Someone screwed up on the Niners communications team there. Of all people we could have playing, of all songs we could have play, probably the number one song I would say not to play, other than maybe an Eminem song, would be my only other backup. That would be a true Detroit song. Eminem was in the building that day.
By the way, I saw the stuff on social media of him flipping off the Niners fans. It was hilarious.
Which was incredible. So at that point, I'm thinking we are up 3 scores. They're playing Don't Stop Believin'. We just sang Born and Raised in South Detroit. Guys, we are there.
Living the dream.
I said to myself, too, all my friends were texting me. All I kept saying was keep grinding. Mm-hmm. People were texting saying, oh, are you booking your flights to Vegas yet? I've watched Lions for a long time. I've said it last week. We're the only team that can be up 14 with no timeouts. Our team has no timeouts. We have the ball, and somehow we find a way to lose a game.
It's true.
I don't feel like that was the same old Lions crap. I don't want to talk about that here. We are a different team. But in the back of my mind, I said, okay, there's a chance we could come back, but I leaned in fully thinking this is it. We have got these guys on the ropes. Defense shows up in the second half. We're going to Vegas.
I thought the same exact thing. What I just kept saying, I think I texted it to you, like, if our defense, they don't even have to be great. They could just hold up. Don't be a sieve.
Bend, don't break.
Exactly.
Bend, don't break.
Bend, don't break. And now that wasn't me considering the fact that we'd have some of our woes on offense. The way our offense was rolling, I thought, we're going to at least be able to keep some of that momentum, which totally died. But, and then, of course, turnover, I thought if our defense can just be, like, mediocre, we're going to the Super Bowl.
Right. I think we both knew going in, we have an elite offense. Elite offensive coordinator. Shout out Ben Johnson for staying. I love you so much.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You made my dark day today just a little bit brighter. You did. I was in a very fragile emotional state these past 24 hours. Ben, you helped me out.
Well,
Thank
when you texted me, I don't want to get too into this right now because we're talking about the game, but when you texted me, Ben Johnson, big news. I was like, oh no, he's definitely signed with the Commanders or something like that, and was shocked to see
Which
that.
is kind of what I had hoped you were maybe going to think
Yeah.
when I was trying to build some anticipation there.
Yeah.
But just coming into the second half, we knew the defense was going to be the key there, and I thought we played well in the first half, but definitely was concerned at the start of the second half, just the way that they scored. Obviously, they came down and kicked the field goal. To me, the biggest difference in this game, I think, in the second half is the word's going to be momentum for me, because I truly feel that Dan Campbell managed this game in the start of the second half as if we were losing, not winning. That's my biggest critique. He did not manage that execution on that fourth down where we could have taken the points. Love this podcast, obviously.
Yes.
Would have put us up by 17 and essentially negated the initial points that San Francisco had coming out of the second half.
Which is what they used to build their momentum. Absolutely. So, I'll say this.
How do you feel about this situation?
Okay, I'll share. So, I'm a big blackjack guy. So I understand the idea of this is the way that I play. This is my strategy, and I'm going to do this every time. Like, I'm going to hit on 16 every time. Like, when I'm, against any card that's not a bust card. I'm hitting on 16 every time. And I also understand on the other side of the coin, people are like, I'm going to stay on 16 every single time. You got to choose your strategy and take it. And that's clearly what Dan Campbell is applying that mindset here to the game. He's saying, okay, well, I'm not going to change what I'm doing now because of the way the game is going. Like, we're going to do what is natural to us and what our philosophy is. We're going to stick with it. However, I think that is not the same as in blackjack, because in blackjack, you always got the same cards in the deck. It's the same amount of decks if you're playing whatever, standard blackjack, and there's the same cards. This is not that situation. There's a different deck of cards in a different situation every game, and you have to be able to adapt to the situation that you're in. I don't care what the analytics say. The analytics don't take into account every factor. The analytics don't necessarily know that you have a linebacker injured. The analytics don't necessarily take into account that the momentum that's going on right now, the feeling of the game. That can't be baked into the numbers, and so you have to be able to see which cards are out right now and adapt your play style to what is happening. So in my mind, Dan Campbell could have made some different decisions that I'm sitting there screaming at the TV to make, so it's not like hindsight's 2020. I mean, in the moment, I think a lot of Lions fans are saying, take the points or do something different than what you're doing in different situations, and he didn't do it. Part of me respects it. He sticks to his guns. And then part of me is like, man, he's got to learn and grow from this and be able to make different decisions in the future. How do you feel?
I agree 100%. I've been consistent on it all year. The blackjack example is a fantastic analogy to give. We have to be able to be agile in these decisions, like anything else in life. And I think at that point, if you could have said, San Francisco pumped up at halftime, coach is telling them, you guys are playing absolutely horrible. You could not have a worse first half. I could argue the Lions could not have had a better first half, and San Francisco could not have had a worse first half. If you could have drawn it up before and said, you're going into halftime, up 3 scores, we all would have said, what are you smoking? There's not a chance that's actually accurate. Knowing that they came out of halftime and gave you their best shot, and it was 3 points. You put a nice, solid drive together. I think maybe 7 minutes left in the third quarter at that point. So I do start thinking in my mind how many possessions are left. It's early to run the clock out. Anybody that says, oh, we got to start worrying about the clock and running at that point, you're still playing to win.
Exactly.
I'm not playing to ice the clock with a quarter and a half to go in the NFC Championship game now with the explosion of San Francisco. Let's say you decide to kick that field goal. Again, easy hindsight 2020. You've now taken San Francisco's post locker room speech. We're pumped. And there's now 7 minutes to go in the third quarter, and we are back to being down 17.
Nothing. It's such a good point. Like, what I was thinking while this was happening in the second half to the Lions, and this, the momentum had completely swung. I was like, man, I wish that this had happened in the first half, because having that halftime to be able to go and reset and like just clear your mind and get pumped up is huge. And clearly the Lions didn't have that. What I was thinking today was, like, in basketball, the Lions would have called a timeout and brought everybody together and been
So
like,
true. I told my dad that. I wish we could have just gathered everybody, and you get Penei Sewell in the middle again saying, guys, Super Bowl here. Let's get our shit together.
Yes.
We are 30 minutes away, or at that point, 23 minutes away, however much time was left in the game. We got to pull our stuff together here. It's not how football works.
I wish it was. Like, obviously they have to use the timeouts to stop the clock, but I think if we had, unlimited timeouts, which would be ridiculous, we would have definitely been able to call one right then, bring everybody together, and it would have changed. I think it would have changed the game.
And this is nothing new for the Lions, unfortunately, coming out in the third quarter. They have been absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
You hear it
terrible.
every single broadcast. They have been very, very poor coming out in the third quarter. You knew Kyle Shanahan was going to make adjustments. You knew that was going to happen.
Absolutely.
We actually had a great drive, I thought. And here's where there's going to be a lot of debate that comes in. I listened to some sports radio today, as minimal as I could, because I just emotionally...
You want your takes to be your own.
Right. And emotionally, I'm not in a great spot. I mostly do it because I want to hear what people are calling in with. All the takes on the radio are going to be very, very similar, right? Someone's going to try to say something very unique and different from everybody. Everybody calling in, they're backing up saying we don't have a great kicker. Michael Badgley is statistically, I think, one of the worst kickers in his career, that it was on a playoff roster kicking between 40 and 49 yards. I can't remember what that field goal would have been, maybe low to mid 40s, I think.
I think it was 48.
Right. And so I think, we saw some stats today that talked about how Campbell has gone for it on fourth down, and I will give him credit in this. Like we said, he sticks to his guns and does very consistent in what he needs to do. But then where I come to challenge is, at the end of the first half, you had a chance to go on 4th and 2 at the goal line, right? You chose to kick the points. But yet, in the third quarter, a similar situation presents itself, and you decide to go. That, to me, is a little bit of inconsistency.
That's true.
You could argue halftime. You could argue just different time in the game. But why was it okay in that situation to go up 3 points, where I could make an argument that you could put your foot on their throat by scoring a touchdown there? Now they're down 21 points. The momentum in the stadium being there shifted completely in that moment. That, to me, was the entire turning point of that game. When that happened and we did not get that fourth down, the air out of the Lions fans was so evident that it happened in the stadium, and the momentum shifted in that moment. Because think about it, Wilson, if you are a 49ers player there, you are now, let's assume he makes the field goal, which I know people are going to say we're 80% on fourth downs. It was about I think Badgley was 78% on the season, I think, from that distance. So about equal, I think, a 0.02% increase in win percentage if you go versus kick. I got all the numbers to back all of those things up.
Yeah.
But you think about from a coach game planning standpoint, I'm now down 17 still. There's 7 minutes to go in the third quarter when San Francisco would have gotten the ball back, assuming we make the kick. I'm just assuming an NFL kicker can make a mid-40-yard field goal. You cannot tell me your game plan would not have changed if you are San Francisco. You are going to be pressing a little bit more. Maybe I can't run McCaffrey. Maybe I have to do some more wild throws. Maybe Purdy throws another pick. We'll never know what happens. That's not the reason we lost the game. I want to be very clear with that. We had our chances, and we did not deliver on special teams, on defense, or in offense. That moment, to me, the momentum shifted, and from the rest of the way, we were playing as if we were down.
And we were playing as if we already lost. I texted our buddy Steve, shout out Steve, right at that point, and I said, man, look how deflated we are. Like, we're playing like we've already lost the game, and we still have a great chance to win.
And then what happened there, and Campbell said it snowballed quickly.
Yeah.
We turned the ball over on downs, which I was not able to see the TV at this point. I believe on both fourth downs I know Josh Reynolds obviously had a big drop, I believe, on a third and a fourth down.
Two big drops.
I'm not in love with the play calling either. You've been running on them all day. I would have loved to see a run there, at least some play action. I'm getting tired of these fourth down calls where you have an empty set and you're not even threatening a run. I saw that later in the game too. Again, this is couch Robbie quarterback talking. I totally
but I felt
get it.
the same way.
I need a little play action in there to keep the defense thinking because your run game has been so successful. Momentum to me is the key of this game and why we lost.
Yeah.
I said it earlier. I felt like Dan Campbell managed, when we had a lead, he managed like we were down. And I think that's ultimately what was the tip of the iceberg for a lot of other negative things that happened. Dan Campbell is not the reason that we lost this game, but he did not necessarily put us in an advantageous position that I felt like gave us the best opportunity to win. And that's where I think my biggest criticism of him comes. There's room for improvement. Coaches are going to grow. I hope he learns from this. I love his mentality and his tough nose. I think in that moment, he was wrong. If he could go back, my guess is he would take the points. And now it's 17. You're up 17. You're kicking the ball off with less than 7 minutes to go. Let's say it's a 4-minute drive at that point. Okay, now you're down 10 with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. Drives are getting limited here. I think all those things had a trickle-down effect.
Yeah. I mean, he even said to the media after that he didn't regret his decision.
Of course not. Dan Campbell's never going to say he regrets his decision.
No, which I love that about him. Even if he actually does, he's going to stick to his guns. And so there is a time to take accountability, but I don't think that was something that he needed to be like right in the moment there, like, oh, I messed this up, like whatever. Here's what really is ticking me off, though. I do see some Lions fans, and I actually watched a video of some random guy that I'm friends with on Facebook saying, that he said the Lions are a great team, but they can't win with this coach.
Completely disagree with that take.
Oh, it made me so mad because I was like, you know what? Without this coach, this Lions team wouldn't be who they are. Like that is like so. For sure. Like, just the attitude that he brings, the mindset that he brings, ability that he's had to rally this team around him and together. I don't think that you're getting that from just anybody.
No way. He embodies this city. And anybody that says, I have no issue with him going for it on fourth, and in that situation, I wish he would have kicked. I get it.
Yeah.
I understand the frustration there. Dan Campbell is not going anywhere. He shouldn't go anywhere. I think he will grow and learn as a coach.
Yes.
All year, what did he say? He said, I trust my guys in high leverage situations. That's what he has said from day one. He's preached it in Hard Knocks. He installs confidence in his players that they can achieve and overcome any obstacle.
Which is a huge ability. I mean, that's what you need in a coach.
Exactly.
And guess what? If one or two, maybe even just if one play goes differently, if we convert on that fourth down, I mean, we're sitting here saying, gosh, Dan Campbell has some balls and we love it. He's so aggressive and he's just like, he did this. He won us this game. We're saying that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is easy to look back and say, like, we should have done this, but I do still think, like I said earlier, he's got to adapt and be able to analyze a situation, not just looking at the analytics and looking at the .02 difference in the numbers. Like, I think that this could be a learning moment where he can grow and maybe make a different decision next time. Maybe he makes the same decision, but at least it's a thought. And it's not just, well, we're going to stick to this just because this is what the number said or this is what I've said all season. Have a little bit more flexibility.
Everybody thinks of momentum in the positive if something were to succeed. The positive momentum you would be gained. Campbell said that a lot. I wanted to make sure we kept the momentum in that second half, which I found was really interesting because you had the momentum. You were still up 14 points.
Yeah.
But what's the flip side of that? You've now completely flipped the momentum versus San Francisco feeling, like I said earlier, we just drove the field. Great. We're only down 14, 2 scores, and we're back down 17, like I said. That's what happens when you go and you don't get it, is that's what you have to deal with now. And he was maybe having an overconfident in his defense. We can talk about kind of the defense obviously blew, I think, most of the game, to be honest with you. The offense did its job in the first half. So, again, I don't want to belabor that one play.
Yeah,
that, to me, though, if I had to say the one moment that I felt like things shifted, the fans shifted in the stadium at that point. San Francisco started to get loud. Then you look at the next couple series, right? Touchdown, Vildor, pick, nope, off the helmet, into a catch.
That was crazy, though. That is something that's like, oh my, I would love to see the analytics on the likelihood of that catch being made. From where it was thrown to where the defender was positioned, like, that doesn't happen. I mean, that's a 1 in couple hundred.
I also
catch,
thought it
maybe,
was a
or more.
touchdown because I didn't think anyone touched him when he was down.
Yeah, it might have been.
I think it was a touchdown. I was surprised that they did not throw the flag there. There also was a flag on the play for, I believe, pass interference. So that's what people say. It was an amazing catch. I believe there was a flag on the field for pass interference.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, we couldn't hear over the PA because the mic, Blakeman's mic
I
was
didn't.
all.
I didn't register for me if there was, but you could be right.
But anyways, you get the point there. They score, you get the ball back. You're now only up 7, and Jahmyr Gibbs, second fumble this year.
Like, what's the likelihood of that in that situation?
It's hard for me to describe what happened there because that was your drive to go kind of stop the bleeding.
Exactly.
It was the worst third quarter I've seen the Lions maybe potentially ever have. It could not have gone any worse. And where I think we can kind of go into the rest of the game here is, what did Dan Campbell preach all year? What is the word that represents Detroit Lions? Grit. Did we have enough grit in that second half?
Not at all. We had like next to none.
I think the grit and the toughness to rally fell apart in our second half, and I think we caved. Do I think we blew the game? I'm not going to go that far. Not how I personally feel. You may think differently. Did we not make winning plays? Yes. Did San Francisco capitalize on those plays to then win the game? Yes. We put ourselves in a bad situation by some of Dan Campbell's calls. Players did not execute. You left that to chance. Again, field goal kicker could be missed, etc. I just felt like in that second half, our grit, our toughness, I don't know if we got tight. The fans were tight. I was tight, sitting there just quiet in the seat, trying to tell myself, it's a tie game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
You got 15 minutes to go to the Super Bowl. Let's go.
And I think it came down to experience to your point of, like, they capitalized on our mistakes. Like, San Francisco had 70 players or something that had been to the conference championship before, and the Lions had just a handful.
Give them all the credit in the world. I am not taking anything away from San Francisco.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did a lot of things to lose this game. They also capitalized. They had hardly any, I don't think they had any drives in the second half that were empty. Everything they did scored.
Yeah.
Right, 27 unanswered points until the very end when we managed to get a touchdown and run
When it
the
was
ball
too late,
for
yeah.
some reason and then burn our timeout, which we'll have to get to that
That
later.
was also crazy.
Just the momentum shifted in that moment, and just, to me, the defense just did not come through. We missing tackles. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, thank you, but goodbye. Chirp, 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 talk, talk, talk.
Didn't back it up.
Cannot back it up. The penalty on the interception, are you kidding me?
Yeah, and then I mean some of his poor tackling, I just was like, man, I think this is classic fan. I think I could have made a couple of those tackles that he missed. Like,
I disagree, but okay. Yeah.
I mean, for sure, I would have gotten bowled over by McCaffrey.
Maybe with his torn pectoral muscle. He was meant to bring an edge. I get it. I just think he played absolutely horrible yesterday. I thought his energy was bad. She was waving at halftime to the San Francisco fans, saying, see ya, waving up to the fans.
Oh, man.
You just can't do it. That's not what Dan Campbell's about. It's not what our team is about. And that's why I think he talks so much about bringing in guys that have that dog and have that fight, but fit in the locker room. I don't think Gardner-Johnson fit. I think
He's gone.
I would have loved to see him be able to help us this year. I think with Iffy and Kirby Joseph, Kirby had a bit of a down year, but Iffy obviously coming on at the end. I didn't like his attitude. I felt like we didn't need it at the moment. If you're a true leader, you rally. Mm-hmm. You don't go talking smack and then not being able to back it up. I thought it was a tough moment. But Campbell said it in the press conference. For a catastrophe, which is what he called it, like that to happen, 12 things have to go bad. All 12 things went bad in the second half.
They just
did.
And this is what I've been telling myself to make myself feel a little bit better. Is the San Francisco fans could make not as strong of a case, but a similar case for their first half of like it was just thing after thing going wrong for them, like going right for us. And so we had that, they had that, and then in the second half it just flipped. So the hardest part for me was the feeling of we're going to the Super Bowl and then that getting ripped away. Like almost would have been easier to swallow this loss if we had gone into the game and immediately been down a couple touchdowns and then, or like, we were never leading, especially like by 17 points. It would have felt easier to take that loss versus, oh my gosh, we're up 17. We're really going to the Super Bowl and then having that stripped away. So I've rationalized this by saying, well, you know what? Actually, we just had a great half and they had a great half. We had a bad half. They had a bad half. Like it feels a little bit better versus just focusing on the collapse that we had.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I feel the same way. I think a lot of people are saying too how the season went. we surpassed expectations.
We did.
We should still be really happy with where we are. I'm very happy with how the season ended. Lions win that game yesterday. They win the Super Bowl.
I think so too. I mean, we already beat Kansas City this season. It's hard to beat a team twice, but we clearly have what it takes to beat that team. And if you give the Lions that opportunity to go win that game, I have a hard time imagining them. I mean, we saw them fold in this game, but I have a hard time imagining that team going to the Super Bowl against a team they've already beaten and losing.
It was exactly why I wanted to get in last year. And a lot of pundits said people don't want the Lions to get in last year because we were a tough, hungry team. What happened this year, a team that hasn't been there in 30 years, the way we captured the city, being the underdog, I think that only can happen one time.
You think that
Let me be clear on this. I think the Lions are a great team and are going to make it back to the NFC title game. I'm very confident that our team is going to be in a good position. What I mean is the chip on your shoulder you can carry, being that underdog, is really a one-time thing. Think about what we did this year. Haven't won the NFC North, check. Beat Rodgers last year to kick him out of Green Bay, check. Come into this year, make the playoffs, check. Home playoff game, check. Slay your ex-quarterback, check. Win 2 home playoff games. Go to the NFC Championship game. First.
Yeah, that's true.
Now you look to next year. Campbell said it himself in the press conference. It's going to be twice as hard to get there. So my comment is more around we're going to have to find a new tagline, a new motive.
It's like a rebrand because we've already done the grit thing and that rallied everybody.
We have moved from the hunter to the hunted.
Yeah, we're going to have a target on our back.
It's very different. And we did this year for sure, but people weren't quite sure. Are they good? Are they not good? Can they beat Rodgers? Can they not? So I think it will be very interesting to see next year what he uses. I think he started that in his press conference, which is why he said it's going to be really hard to get back here. I think he purposely did that. Dan Campbell's always thinking of the next step. And so I think it was just a very unique situation to be in this year. I hope we can find a way to carry that momentum. With where we were in the first half, being up 17 points, I think the goalpost moved a little bit, and I'm okay with that. I think that's okay to admit it was still a successful season, but we blew a major opportunity to make it to the Super Bowl. I have no problem in qualm saying that. If people say, is there such thing as a good loss? Sure, that argument could be had there.
Not here.
I don't see it here.
No, I don't either. However, I will say that there is something to be said about stability and being able to come in with a even more confident mindset and then experience of having been there and gone through it. So as much as it sucks to not have like those firsts to go out and be chasing and ticking off the list and having this whole city and fandom rallying behind you, and I think the Lions fans will still be there regardless and having just as big of a rally, but like checking off those firsts and all of that, definitely it won't be there, but the experience will be there, the stability will be there, especially with Ben Johnson staying.
Huge.
And those are some things that we can lean on that could give us even possibly a better opportunity next year if we were able to get in that same situation, because having been there, done that before, and the mindset, it's such a mental game, and I think that could be something for us to lean on next year.
That's what I hope. I think that's what helps probably a lot of people process this entire situation, truthfully, is people think tough loss, it'll make us more gritty next year, it'll kind of grind us down, right? We've taken some punches. I agree with all of that. It doesn't take away that we had a major opportunity in a 17-point lead with a half to go to make it to the Super Bowl, and we didn't deliver.
Yeah.
I believe that feeling will not go away. It was a great opportunity. I was in the stadium, one of the most amazing moments of my life. I would not trade back that first half. I love that I had that first half memory. Yes, it makes it harder that we lost that game. Yes, it does. 100% it does. But I wouldn't trade back those moments. I think it was still like an incredible first half. If I would have gone down there and we get blown out by 30, we all would have questioned, is this team good? Imagine the question marks going into next season had that happen. It was just a major opportunity that we didn't deliver on. Again, not all Dan Campbell's issue here. The players did not deliver. Special teams, punting the ball, we grab it in the end zone so it's not touchback at the one. How does that drive change in that situation? Dan Campbell's call when it was 4th and 3 in the fourth quarter, down 3. I have no issue with going for it there. It's a different time in the game. It's your blackjack example versus a football game.
Exactly.
We were down at that point. You have to go. It's what we did. We saw stats. I think the entire year we've only been stopped twice when going for 4th and 3 in opponent's territory. Twice. We got stopped twice on Sunday. The metrics were in our favor to go for it. Just maybe some early on decisions. The defense, though, can we get one stop in the second half? How does that game change if we get one stop?
I know. There's so many things that if you take one little thing away, like the interception, the reception for 50-plus yards that Ayuk caught.
Imagine that's incomplete.
If that's an incompletion, which it should have been an incompletion. Even if there's a pass interference on, you said Vildor, you think there was? It's still, they're not all the way, at the, what were they, at the 10-yard line or 5-yard line after that? Like, that could change the entire game. Maybe we held them to a field goal.
I believe NFL is spot foul.
Is it a spot foul?
I believe it's spot. I think college is 15 yards.
Okay, well, that shows.
NFL's, but let's say they call holding versus a pass interference, it's only a 5-yard penalty. Whatever the difference is, a lot of things had to go their way and a lot of things had to go against us. That's exactly what happened in that game.
Yeah.
And the grit was tested. The grit did not deliver in that third and fourth quarter. Cannot tell me it did not deliver in that fourth quarter. We were down. We were tough. We were built for it. We weren't tough enough for this game. I'm proud as hell of these guys. I think it was an awesome season. I think it's going to be twice as hard to get back here. It was the best season of my entire Lions life. I watched every single game, just eyes wide open and making sure I'm going to enjoy the hell out of this moment. Just was a really tough loss. Great news today. Ben Johnson coming back.
Oh my gosh, massive.
We got cap space. Brad Holmes is a magician with the draft. A lot of positives. I'm trying to isolate out how I feel about next season versus what happened this season, because I think if this city really wants to become a true football city, you want to be Kansas City, you want to be New England in their heyday. You learn to accept these moments as failure and that the number one goal is to win a Lombardi trophy. Those are the expectations we need to set if this city really wants to consider ourselves a big dog in football. Getting the NFC title game's fun. There's no banner. There's not going to be any celebration on Woodward. The only way that's happening is with the Lombardi trophy. Let's hope we learn from this moment. I hope it happens. I hope Campbell learns. I hope the defense learns. We got to upgrade the hell out of this roster heading into this offseason.
Yes.
And let's run it back again next year with the new mentality now of we're good enough to get there. Are we good enough to win it? That become the new mantra for Campbell. We'll have to wait and see. I have no doubt in my mind he'll be able to find a way to motivate the guys.
I have no doubt either. And, I mean, it's whatever it's going to be next year, it's going to be an improvement from where we were a couple years ago. Like, we're in a much better spot. Like,
for sure.
This team has all the potential, and like you said, we're going to improve the roster. We're not going to have the same feeling of underdogs, but I'd love to see the analytics behind how many teams have come from this, like, out of nowhere, and then their first year that they make the playoffs in 30, or that they win a playoff game in however many 30 plus years.
30 plus years.
That have then gone on to win the Super Bowl, because I bet you it's 0. Like, that's probably never been done before. What usually happens is the team's good, they're there, and then they win it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that is actually better for us, and as much as we wanted it to be this year with this grit and the rally cry of the city, like, it's probably more likely that you get there, you're there, you build on it, and then you win.
We hope that's the case. There's no guarantees. Goff goes down next year, ACL, offensive linemen get hurt, running back get hurt.
It could be ripped away in a second.
It could happen. We have to go in with optimism, because what else do we have to go for? It's that age-old adage, lose big, lose small, win big. That's the way you got to look at it. We've lost big, we've lost small. Now we're started to win small. Can we win big? Can we hold a lead? Can we play like a champion? If you could rewind and say we are up 17 points going into halftime, and you fast forward to next year, I should say, and you're in that same situation, my hope is this team is galvanized to a point that they know no matter what comes after halftime, this is our one chance and our one opportunity to do this. We need to seize the moment.
Damn, you sounded like Eminem for a second. You got one chance, one opportunity.
That's right. Mom spaghetti. What else are we talking about? So just an awesome game. I know we didn't touch on all the plays in the game. I'm sure we could have. My only last qualm I'll probably have is running the ball on third down there in the fourth when, yes, outside shot. Yes, I understand. Not a huge likelihood we could have won there. I'm actually always a believer of just kick the field goal immediately and then onside kick to keep yourself the most time.
Oh, wow.
Just a different philosophy there. One of my good friends, Billy, we always go back and forth on this. He's in agreement with me in that situation. Once you get inside the 20, 30-yard line with under 2 minutes to go, kick the field goal.
Yeah.
Onside ball. You have your 3 timeouts. I think it was a poor decision to run the ball there. Campbell admitted it today too. You had to get them the ball back with your 3 timeouts to just try to extend the game.
Yeah.
Instead,
it was over immediately when we scored a touchdown.
Pulled a Todd Bowles, and he wasn't calling timeouts at the end of the game. We were accidentally calling them because we shouldn't have done that. But again, hindsight 2020, the game was not lost in that play. The game was lost throughout the second half. All parts of the Lions team failed, unfortunately. Still a hell of a season. Moment I'll never forget. This team's on the right path. I'm confident we'll get there. We just got to see what happens. Enjoy the ride for what it was.
Mm-hmm. Lots of memories I'll keep for forever.
Right. Starting this podcast this year, this was
Seriously.
a special time. Imagine if we're doing this without the Lions being where they are. What would we be talking about?
It would suck. Nobody would. I'd just be still talking about Jim Harbaugh being a cheater.
Right.
I'd still be.
And then even though we have 20 listeners now, we might be down to 5 at that point. So.
Oh no, people love that.
Yeah. We're going to make a transition. Fans are going to have to get over this and move on. And again, I think 3 months from now, my feelings may be a little bit different than how they are now. The wound is still fresh. I just feel like we blew a big opportunity, but I'm hoping we can get back here. I got confidence in Home, confidence in Campbell. I like Sheila. I think she's a good owner at this point. She's changed the culture. Now we find out, is this team going to be a sustained, successful championship level team, or was this a 1-year blip?
No way. I cannot imagine that.
The best answer is I don't know, because this next season hasn't started yet. I have all the confidence in the world. We just know football's a fluky sport. We got to enjoy the ride that we were on, and let's hope next year we just rise up again, and we're sitting here next year talking about an NFC championship, and we're going to a freaking Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
It'd be fantastic.
If there's one thing, I know we've already talked about Ben Johnson. If there's one thing for next year that you're excited about and one thing that you want us to change, what would those things be?
I'm most excited about the consistency just across the entire team, whether that's staff now with Ben Johnson coming back, Jared Goff, obviously going to be back no matter what. Some of our key core, a lot of guys still on rookie contracts. Mm-hmm. Cap is in your favor. All those things are what I'm most, I'd say, excited about. I think the thing I'm most nervous about is every team has a unique identity. This team's identity this year was grit, was toughness, bunch of kind of underwhelming guys in terms of like not these massive free agent signings, all kind of homegrown. My concern, maybe more of a question, is can Holmes navigate free agency in a way that he does the draft to be able to identify upgrades of talent, being able to maybe take away any personal feelings we have towards some of the players because they're great guys and we love them. Can we put the resources and assets in a smart way to enhance this team without sacrificing that core identity of what we are, but still working to improve? That's a whole different arm for me of a GM. We haven't really seen him flex that muscle yet. Mm-hmm. CJ Gardner-Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley, both those guys, I'd say, did not necessarily work out. David Montgomery, great signing.
Huge. Haven't
had any big splash signings. How is he going to handle that this offseason, knowing the cap situation that we're in, which is pretty positive for right now? We got a lot of big extensions coming. So that's what I'm most interested to see how he can build outside of the draft. Clearly proven he's a draft whiz.
I think this is a great answer. I mean, for me, it's the same. What I'm most excited about is the consistency, obviously, with Ben Johnson news today. And just like I was mentioning earlier, being able to build on something, I think, is huge. What I want to see change the most, I've also talked about this a little bit, is I want us to not be as focused on the analytics. We're too focused on the analytics. It feels to me like somebody who is, in debt, and they're like, well, I'm not going to pay off this debt that's, a 6% interest rate because I can put my money in the market and make 8%, and yet they're broke. Like, you can't just look at those numbers. Like, there's so much more to the game, and I think that we have more potential if we're thinking, like, we think with our heart as a city, and as a, that's like part of the grit. We should do a little bit more of that in the game. That's one thing I want to see changed.
What is funny that you say that, and I find interesting, is Dan Campbell is a big gut guy.
Yeah.
He gives off this persona of this kind of meathead that just goes off, I'm going to get this, I'm going to be stubborn. a lot of the choices he makes are rooted in analytics.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
For example, you could argue going for that field goal would have been against analytics, even though a slight odd, right? Going for that field goal in the third quarter would have actually been against analytics. But if your gut says, I don't want to stem this tide in this game, that to me is an example of that.
Exactly.
I'm an analytics guy. I love analytics. I think it can help the players you bring in, the decisions that you make in games. Massive in baseball, a lot of these sports. Can he learn to be agile and mix analytics and emotion with momentum of a game?
That's what I think takes us to the next
perfect
level.
Balance.
Yeah.
Because the best coaches have done that. You look at Kyle Shanahan, he's been here, he's lost. A lot of these coaches that have been here and lost, they've learned something from these losses. Andy Reid is the one that gives me hope. Andy Reid has been here, they've lost, they've won, they've maintained this consistency that Campbell talks about. Can we become that next franchise that does that? Andy Reid, 6 straight AFC championship games?
Oh, he's incredible. God, I love Andy Reid.
Right, so can we just maintain that momentum? It's a big ask for us to do that. I have full faith and confidence in Campbell to do it. He's our guy. Jared Goff is our quarterback. We'll talk about extensions and draft. I think we'll maybe do another podcast on that in the future. From 3 years ago to where we are now, tough loss this weekend. Super excited for the future. We'll see what happens.
Amazing. Well, that was fun. Do you want to talk about some bets?
Yeah, we should talk about some bets, huh?
Because we made some bets in that game that didn't go over well. And
yeah, this trip was expensive. I was hoping I was going to be able to maybe offset some of my debt from this trip with these bets, but
we haven't.
Wilson,
neither one of us has hit one yet.
How much did you win last week?
I won -$20.
And how about me? -$20.
So far, you've lost me $30.
Yep, same here.
Yeah. Okay, let's turn that around.
Which with football ending, we'll say for Detroit at least, we'll obviously continue to cover some Super Bowl stuff in our upcoming podcast. This podcast is going to transition a little bit. Newsflash: there's more than football going on in the world.
And there's more than Detroit sports.
That's right. We got NBA. We got NBA to talk. We got to dive into our Pistons. Got a lot of hypotheticals there.
Oh yeah.
We got some Michigan State basketball. We want to talk about college hoops, March Madness preview. Yep. Red Wings too. Hockey. The Wings are rolling. They're hot. They've been hidden with what's going on with the Lions. The Wings are back, which is great. I think we got a lot of different topics that we can touch on. I saw opening day is 60, 70 days away right now, which is incredible. Wow. We're getting close. It's not super far off. So we still got a lot of engaging topics. We got the draft coming up in April. So that's kind of where we'll probably go over the next couple weeks. So I think today for our bets, we're going to start diving into some basketball
some
bets.
NBA, which is my favorite. This is where I succeed the most. So I feel optimistic for you.
Do you want to lead us off here?
I will. And I don't even have to look at anything written down because mine is so simple. So I went with a 3-leg parlay for you. I took 2 money lines and an over. Okay. So I really like the Houston Rockets right now.
Okay.
Even though, Dylan Brooks is one of those guys that people love to hate. And I do too. He's kind of got that Draymond Green energy. But I love what they've got going right now. And they just had a pretty big win over the Lakers. So I took Houston Rockets. I can't even remember who they're playing. I should have probably written it down. But I took them on the money line.
Okay.
And then I took the Thunder on the money line at home against the Nuggets. And this is all for tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, January 31st.
Okay.
So I took OKC. They just lost to the Pistons, which is insane. The Pistons actually kind of whooped on them.
That's a first.
Yeah, insane. They're in second place right now in the Western Conference, and they're an amazing team. I think they have the most swag out of any team in the NBA. So I see them coming back and having a big win over the Nuggets. And then lastly, in the Sacramento Kings-Miami Heat game, I took the over. I think that's going to be high power, a lot of points scored. Scary Terry just joining that Miami Heat squad.
That was a big deal.
Big deal. I mean, Kyle Lowry's a great player, but...
Heat culture, baby. Heat culture.
Yeah, I think that team is going to get on a little bit of a roll here, and I see a lot of points going up in that game.
It was a special moment. That was a special moment, and I can't afford it. So, I got to pay off this trip. Okay, so I had grabbed my phone because I could not remember what I actually bet, so there won't be any video of me of this. But I got a 3-leg parlay, plus 608 total odds here. First is going to be the Orlando Magic at the San Antonio Spurs. I took the Magic -5.
Okay.
I like the way the Magic are playing. I think they've been playing well the past couple games.
Carroll's been unbelievable.
Right? That number to me feels right. I think obviously with San Antonio, I mean, Wembanyama's been obviously great this year, but I just think the overall team is not maybe stacked up the way that they could against the Magic. Magic were awesome last year too. Obviously, just younger team with some core pieces I like there. This one, we'll see what you think of this one. I took the Portland Trailblazers plus 9.5.
Who are they playing?
They're playing the Bucks.
Ooh.
So Bucks coming off a loss. Just made the Doc Rivers switch.
They did, which is a ridiculous move, in my opinion, when you've got a coach that's led you to where they're at. Obviously, they have a great roster, so you can only give the coach so much credit because you got Giannis, but he's still done a great job, put him in good position.
Yes.
So it seems like a crazy firing to me, but...
Yeah, we're going to have to dive into that. I have a lot of thoughts.
Future topic.
A lot of thoughts.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I do think it's going to be tough. You're going to need a big game out of somebody like Scoot Henderson, who's boom or bust.
Yeah.
If he has a big night, it could happen.
But I'm working off momentum. Portland coming off 26-point win over the 76ers yesterday.
Did they really?
They did.
Oh my gosh, by
So
26?
We're talking a little bit of momentum here. Again,
Oh,
new
wow.
coach. I'm playing the new coach factor. There's one way that happens with a new coach. You either get up, you get fired up, you rally, or we're going through some miscommunication, we're going through some changes.
True.
I just feel like Bucks are at Portland too. I love them playing at home, 9.5. Again, what's the name of this podcast?
Take the points.
Take the points.
Yeah, not a bad move.
I'm taking the points. Last is going to be the Denver Nuggets at OKC. I got Denver Nuggets +2 playing at OKC.
Okay, so I took OKC on the money line, and you got Nuggets +2. So
Yes.
what we need...
Which means the Nuggets are also coming off a big win over the Milwaukee Bucks.
Ooh.
So all my games here are kind of tied. Again, we're betting NBA. We're not betting futures here, right? This is a game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Recency matters here.
Yep.
Two teams, one coming off a bad loss, one coming off of a bad win. I played those into each other.
The only
We'll see
way
what
that we
happens.
both win these bets is if OKC beats Denver by 1.
Okay.
Because if they beat Denver by 1, then you still got the +2.
I still cover. I'm good.
And I took OKC to win.
Yeah, yep.
So we need OKC to win by 1, otherwise one of us is losing.
Good teams win. Great teams cover.
Perfect.
That's how it's got to be. So yeah, so we'll do a smooth transition here into some NBA and maybe some hockey gambling here. We are getting into Wilson's sweet spot here.
Oh my gosh, man.
So
I'm so excited about everything that's about to come for basketball, including tonight in an hour and a half. We got maybe the least exciting Michigan State basketball game in recent history, with both teams being terrible in an hour and a half. So I'm excited to get home and watch that.
I feel like Sparty's probably going to take that one. But
I think so, but
we shall see the way they've been playing. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see which team shows up. Who's coaching Michigan? Still not quite sure. Is it Howard? Is it Martelli? We'll find out. At least we know Izzo will be there. Maybe Steven will get some run tonight.
Yeah, maybe he'll beat his career high 3 points. That was I don't know if you saw him score
did.
that bucket though. That was
I
pretty
did.
sick.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this was fantastic. Thanks for having me over. I didn't even mention, if you're watching the video version of this, we're in Robbie's basement, and it's amazing. Beautiful. So thanks for having me over here.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're going to see us go back and forth between the houses as our
fun.
schedules allow. But yeah, hopefully we'll keep getting on here at least once a week, or as time allows when some news breaks. I think, again, kind of transitioning off of football as the immediate topic here moving forward. But it was a lot of fun kicking this off during the Lions season, and let's hope we're back next year and we're talking about a Lombardi trophy. But yeah, it was a great episode, and look forward to talking to everybody soon.
Let's do it. We'll see you soon on Take the Points.